the genetic testing wasn't something we were even aware of until kind of the back end of mum living with the disease. So having to live with kind of losing mum, watching her be stripped of everything, and the wickedness of kind of the back end of the disease and seeing her have literally no quality of life, to then learning that we could be in that position one day was extremely difficult to navigate. And I always say for long periods of time, the choice to have a genetic test wasn't one that I even wanted to talk about. I kind of put it in a box, ignored it, and just wanted to get on with like my late teenage life. And to be honest, to my own detriment, because I became quite an angry young man, abused my relationship with alcohol, got into a lot of trouble out on weekends, caused my dad a lot of unnecessary stress and worry at a time when ultimately he was looking after my mum as like a palliative care sense, you know, end of life care. So that wasn't fair. So I caused a lot of damage to the people around me, which is something that I do regret, but I also think that it was kind of understandable at the time with how much I was going through. And really, my decision to get genetic testing changed when I saw my sister get a positive result. So my sister's 2 years older than me. She was always adamant with the fact that she shared so many characteristics with my mum in terms of the way she looked, her dark hair, that kind of strong Irish look that she's got about her. And she was convinced that she was going to get it like my mum. So she was always adamant that she wanted to find out. And in spring of 2018, she found out that she wasn't a carrier. So she's got the same chance as anyone of inheriting a form of Alzheimer's or dementia. And that really, I mean, my mum was diagnosed in June 2010. And this was 2018. In that 8-year period, this was probably the first bit of good news that we'd had as a family. So it completely changed my thoughts on getting genetically tested. And I thought, you know, that could be my circumstances. I could really move on with my life. It could be, you know, the end of this kind of never-ending nightmare that we were living in. So I then decided at the back end of that to start my process with getting genetically tested. And I actually found out in September of 2018 that I was a carrier. Wow.
And how old were you when you decided to go for the test?
I was 23 years of age when I found out. So still young, still navigating my way in the world, and still really dealing with the grief of my mum's passing, you know.
When prior to that was it that your mum sadly passed?
So my mum passed away in March 2016 at the age of 52. So she was diagnosed as I said, in 2010 at the age of 47, and she'd been showing symptoms of FTD for probably 18 months, 2 years prior to that. And as I say, she's not the only one in our family who's lived with the disease. You know, they've all inherited symptoms in their mid to late 40s, and most of them haven't made it much past 50. So, you know, I know you should be grateful for every day, but 50 is no age to lose your life, and particularly in the way that FTD can strip you of literally everything that makes you who you are. That's how I usually describe it to people. Imagine somebody that you really care about, you know so well, you love them so much. Imagine watching them be stripped of literally everything that makes them who they are on a daily basis. And that's what happened over a 6-year period between 2010 and 2016. I mean, in the last 2 years of my mum's life, she had to be fed through a tube. She couldn't walk or talk, and it was up to myself mainly, alongside my dad, to take up responsibility to care for my mum. So that was taking her to the toilet. You know, I often say that to like most people when I have these conversations, is that at a time where a lot of my mates were going out, enjoying nights out for the first time, you know, enjoying their youth, I was at home wiping my mum's arse. And like that's as brutally and as plainly as I can put it. Like those are the type of tasks I was having to take up. And that's still something very traumatic that I still have to live with now. That's when I think about the toughest things that I've been through, even though finding out my genetic status and knowing that I'm too going to have to live with dementia, one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is when I have to think about that traumatic time and watching my mum go through those types of things and having to deliver that hands-on care. Something that was extremely difficult.
I can imagine, mate. And I think you mentioned earlier about you put your dad through a little bit of a difficult time with some of the actions, but I think based on what you've just said, it's understandable the trauma that you've experienced and what you had to deal with going through that next part of your life. You know, not everybody, but you're gonna go through that period of frustration and anger and, why me? But from that, just having a conversation on the way here, just talking about the mindset, you can see how everything has transitioned. And I always say, like, life happens for you and not to you. And I can see how that has transitioned for you just through having just a very small conversation and everything that you've said. And just been sat here now and then going into everything that you've done recently. I think it's incredible how you've overcome adversity and then transitioned to where you are and what you're doing and what you stand for and the mindset. And the thing that I absolutely loved the most when I was doing my research on yourself for this podcast was your perspective on life changed significantly the day you found out that you had the same genes. And you said something so thought-provoking that it nearly brought a tear to my eye. When you said life, when you realise you've only got a finite amount of time on this world, you want to start doing more fulfilling things in life. And I just want you to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think it's incredible, that perspective and that mindset.
Sure, yeah. I think it's important to mention that the genetic testing process is something that's extremely difficult to go through. It's, it gives you sleepless nights, and you kind of have to be ready to accept that your fate, is ultimately going to be something very difficult to face. But it's quite strange, actually. The one overwhelming emotion I describe to people that I felt once I got delivered that result was one of relief, because it finally gave me, I guess, a new chapter in my life to move on. And I don't know whether it would work the same for everyone. It probably wouldn't, but I always often describe it as giving me a license to live. It's really given me a massive perspective in terms of life is so short. None of us know what's around the corner. And just because I've been given this genetic test result, and it's more than likely out of anything I'm going to lose my life to frontotemporal dementia, but what's to say that I'll walk out the door tomorrow and I don't lose my life in a different way? And that's why, I say it, and one of my videos that did quite well actually on socials was, time is the most precious commodity that we possess. It's something that we all take for granted. And that's why I always try and stress to people about expressing gratitude. I don't feel like you can truly be unhappy if you really sit here, and it sounds so floaty and so like hippie, because I'm not really that kind of guy, but if you can literally just like feel your own fingertips, you can breathe, you can go outside, feel the fresh air on your skin, you can walk, you can talk to people, have these conversations, it makes you realise, how important every minute is, and that we all take so many of kind of those given things for granted when they're not. They're not. None of us know what's around the corner. So many things can change in an instant, and I think it's important in that sense that I reflected even after some of the crazy challenges that I've done. I think it's made me sit back and realise, what do I want with my life? What am I getting the most out of the time that I've got? And that's why that I've made a leap of faith in the last kind of few weeks after reflecting, after what a huge year in 2024 of fundraising and kind of giving my whole life to kind of raising awareness and money towards a cause so close to our hearts, that I've realised that I want more from life. I could easily sit and have this comfortable life in terms of I've been through a hell of a lot and I've got a hell of a lot in front of me that's going to be difficult. But I actually want to test myself. I want to see how much I can get out of the time that I've got here and try and create a life that's going to improve my own time here, but also my family's as well. That's huge for me. So trying to set up my own kind of online business based around helping other people and giving something back, but quite similar to yourself, I guess, in terms of using my own life experiences to help other people in a similar position, And I look back at it, and even when I've carried weight or been suffering from depression, sadly, it's been myself, probably pronged with, a good support network of family and friends, but it's been mainly myself who's had to drag myself out of those situations. And I feel very fortunate to sit here and say that, because, not everybody is in that position to do that.
How do you find that you did that? Because I've been in that place where depressed and, not really wanting to be here. And I had my way of dealing with it. But again, there's a lot of people that will be listening to this that might be in that place right now. For somebody that is a similar age to me and very similar in mindset and everything like that, how did you pull yourself out of that place?
I was very fortunate in the sense that I had a great relationship with my mum. And a lot of my pain has come from losing my mum and knowing that I'm going to live with the same disease as what she went through. And deep down, when I came to probably my lowest point, when I feel like I didn't want to be here anymore, being brutally honest, I thought about my mum, and I thought, what would she think looking down at you now? What would she want from you, from your life? And I know she would be so upset if she thought that I didn't want to go on or live any sort of life. Then I look at it again now, and I think of all the things we've achieved since I made a decision to wake up every day and try and live a more fulfilled life. And that hasn't come overnight. That's building gradual habits into my daily life that will work for me. And going round in a cycle at times. I still, to this day, have periods of time of low mood and spiral into kind of a depression still, I guess, if I'm being brutally honest. But I've, over time, been able to implement habits that I can refer back to that I know will help get me out of that. So like we spoke about, seeking gratitude, journaling's one that's always kind of helped me, whether it be kind of just a brain dump of how I feel at that time, or kind of documenting different moments of time, things I've achieved. And then later on, when you feel in a certain way, or you feel low, you can reflect on those moments and think, wow, look what you did, or look where you were and look where you are now. And being self-reflective and very self-aware of how I feel. But yes, I'm constantly still learning about myself to this day. I'll never have the perfect kind of remedy, and I'm certainly wouldn't say I'm cured from depression or anything like that. It's just something that over time I build daily habits that I know I can refer back to, and yeah, staying consistent with those, I guess, and trying to live as best I can.
If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, then click the link here. Also, if you want to see more clips like this, please subscribe and make sure you turn the notifications bell on.